Man, our relationship, it never ceases to amaze me. I mean,
Why is that?
we've known each other for so long. And why are we just figuring out that we both have like the same guilty pleasure when it comes to like just vegging out at TV?
It is such a guilty fucking pleasure. Oh my god. This is yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say.
It's garbage, and neither of us can look away. And why?
We did watch Tiger King though. Like, you know what I mean? It's like watch 17 car pileup. You want to look away, but you can't because it's so fucking interesting.
And so well produced. And that's so I guess we're vulnerable too. But we should do a show on it.
We should. We're going to. We're doing it. We're doing it now.
Oh, okay. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. What's going on, folks? Welcome to the Garbled Podcast. I am your host, the Get Down from Hispanic Brown Town, the Beast from the motherfucking Pacific East, Ramon. And I'm joined by my co-host.
What's up, guys? It's Nick, Pirate Napano, Captain Poutine, whatever you want to call me. I'll answer anything.
I like Captain Poutine. I like the great height from the North White.
I thought you were going to say the Great White Hype. And I'm like, that's copyright, buddy.
It's copywritten.
Was that Woody Harrelson? I think that was
the Great White Hype.
Right? Yeah, or no?
No. That was I thought that was Sam Jackson and Damon Wayans. Or was that the Great Hope? No, that was the Great White Hype.
Yeah. And yeah, but no, was it? I can't. It doesn't matter. I can't remember who the white guy was.
Doesn't matter.
Wasn't Rappaport, right?
It's a great movie. It wasn't Rappaport. No, it wasn't Rappaport. But it was still a good movie. It was hysterical.
It was. Oh man. So yeah. What are we talking about?
Well, I was gonna leave it up to you to introduce, but it looks like we're talking about Ancient Aliens, and we're talking about the show itself, and we're looking at some of the key philosophies that this show kind of puts out, and some of the problems that we have with the show itself, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they're not necessarily problems; they're flaws, definitely in their argument, in their theory, and to have essentially what at least they are claiming is a school of thought about, were we visited before? Were we, have we been influenced by outside forces? And by outside, I mean outside of our sphere. It's interesting. It's interesting seeing their thought process in why we are the way we are today.
Right.
And I think it's good to look at because, a lot of times we look for answers that are outside of our control, even when that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you know people that will say, oh, it was this fill in the blank conspiracy against me in whatever I was trying to accomplish. It's like, well, how much of it was actually that? How much of it was outside forces really going after you individually, right? Versus just maybe, there were some circumstances that were outside of your control that you either didn't account for or came out of nowhere, and you got to be able to take some ownership and learn in it, So I think if we apply kind of the way that they look at their thinking and involvement of aliens in our development, I think we can look at it as something that maybe we can see in our own behavior and why this show is so popular. It's been on for friggin' 20 years.
15 seasons. It started off, did you know it started off as a movie? It was one of those like History Channel specials, and
I saw that movie. It was called Stargate.
which they would claim is just a reinterpretation of the mythology that they put on the big screen.
Yep. And Stargate SG-1, the series extension of that movie franchise, is Ancient Aliens. It's that philosophy. It's just dramatized. So we actually have two sources. It's Stargate SG-1 and the Ancient Aliens, which takes more of the what would you call that, documentary approach.
Right.
It's interesting.
We'll get into that in a little bit, because we're going to do what we do every episode of the Garble Podcast. We're going to give you our interpretation of the news.
Yeah. Woo. I don't know why I'm so hyped for news.
Go ahead, Nick. Why don't you start us off? Because I feel like yours is the more salient.
Salient?
No,
we should do...
No. What's going on in here is that you're mispronouncing the word. It's always been pronounced salient, okay? You're mispronouncing it.
I'm sorry.
I always pronounce things correctly. Everybody knows. Don't you dare use the word smart around me, Nick.
That's decent. You captured the essence of the debate. Yeah, we had a presidential debate, everybody. Hope nobody watched it. Actually, no. I take that back. I think it is all our responsibility to watch these things. Not many people do. If you're one that has to catch the highlights, okay, but it's not the live presentation. You know, the clips are interpretations of and sound bites curated of the actual whole event. So if you did watch the whole event, I'm sorry. If you only caught the highlights, it depended kind of which network you wound up on what bits and what spin you got. But there were a couple of points in there that were, I want to say, indefensible. You couldn't really spin. You could try, but you can't really spin a couple of the things that happened in the debate. First off, it was a nightmare. My favorite comment was the woman on CNN whose name is escaping me now, referring to it.
Shit show. She was like, you know what, fuck it, we're on cable. Let's call it what it was. It was a shit show. That's exactly what she called it.
Yeah, and she absolutely nailed it, because that's what it was. The rules and the decorum were thrown out the window. Again, depending on which station you were looking at, it either showed that Trump was just a maniac or that Biden couldn't hang. And both are actually kind of right in their assessment of the situation. It was a nightmare. I don't know what we learned. I don't know what undecided voters could really take away, other than both of these guys are,
Listen. I get it that you might. I can't understand it, and like I said, I've made it my point recently to try to talk to a couple of people who were actually Trump supporters, and I actually
this is a past tense thing.
I actually listened the entire time, and I made it a point not to say anything. I just wanted to hear what people had to say, and I'm interested. I would be interested to talk to those same individuals, because I talked to about 3 different individuals who were Trump supporters, and I would be interested to talk to them after this week and see what they still think, and to see where they still lie, because that to me would be telling whether they're just blindly following or whether they really believe that this man presents a viable option.
Yeah, I or fall somewhere in between. You know, I mean, we've all had candidates we've kind of held our nose and voted for.
Right. Are you just that? You know what? That's a good point. I should have introduced that. Are you just going down party lines and you're going to support whoever the party supports?
Right. Exactly. And you know, my parents did for years, They were straight ticket Democrat, just Democrat. And the whole time they would just shake their head and go, I don't even know what we stand for, but we're not them. So boop, straight down the line. Which I don't know. That's kind of tough when, you get disillusioned at a young age at that point. But yeah, so the debate happened. One of the things I heard, I actually haven't heard it since. I said it to you when it happened. But I haven't heard it since. The debate commission, there was right at the heat of the moment, there was some talk about maybe we don't do debates anymore this year. Maybe one is good, and I thought about it and I said, see, Trump wants that, right? Because then he can just run around and go, oh, Sleepy Joe doesn't want to, debate me. Look at what a loser he is, right? And just spin it that way. So I didn't want that. Also, it's, there's already enough obstruction where if we were promised 3 debates and we don't get 3 debates, it looks like it's more obstruction. So I haven't heard it since. I haven't heard that idea floated since, and I don't know how serious it was when I heard it. But which is good. They are talking about changing the rules for the future debates, where they're going to start cutting mics.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Very telling.
Yeah, very telling, because they need to get through answers. Like, candidates need to be allowed to answer, and if they can't keep themselves with enough decorum to allow their opponent to speak, then fine. But then what I worry about is the next debate is going to be, you're going to hear just in the background, oh no, not them both, like just in the background of somebody's answer, just somebody screaming at the top of their lungs to try and get heard on their mic. And it's going to be, I just hope they both come back and are able to keep it a little bit civil this time.
You know what? I don't want to say both, because I don't feel like it was on Joe Biden to be the civil one. I really don't. When you have the other, when Trump is sitting there screaming at the top of his lungs like a 7-year-old throwing a fit in the middle of the goddamn supermarket because his mother won't buy him the cereal that he wants. It's really hard to say that. I think one of the biggest criticisms that I heard of Biden was that he called him a clown, and that he said that he was the worst president the United States had ever seen.
Yeah, he said he called him a clown, took a beat, and then went, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, the worst president." And I'm like, okay, you worked on that one, dude. Like, I don't know. And also, in a presidential debate where you're supposed to be looking, his whole bent was, I'm supposed to look more presidential than this guy. And if we just stand side by side, that becomes apparent, right? And yeah, it was a tirade coming at him. But man, when he just in frustration just went, "Oh, shut up, man." Right? People are pointing to that going, "Yeah, that's my president." I go, "Really? That's who you want in a meeting with Xi Jinping, right? Like, you want him with world leaders trying to get his point across in a conversation, and them going, no, we don't have to do that, no." And then losing his mind, you know what I mean? Like, just telling him to shut up and listen to him for a second because he's got all the answers. Like, I know it's an extreme circumstance, and you're on a podium, with cameras pointed at you, and it's a weird environment anyway. But, dude, he got a bump from he got a bump from the debates. Like I've said before, Biden's, I don't know, man. Like, fine, he's the Democratic nominee. Fine, he's not Trump. He can win on that. He can win on he's not Trump. You know what I mean? And that's about all that we're really hoping for from him. I've said it before too, where he needs to go. He needs to shake hands for 4 years with the rest of the world. he needs to say, we're going to try and play nice. And then he needs to usher in Kamala Harris now, who's his VP. When I said it, I didn't know she was going to be the VP, but he's going to usher her in as the next president of the United States after he retires. after 4 years, as he said, and that's fine. He needs to be the great mender, and that's fine. But you need a temperament for that I didn't see, which sucks. And I wish they had talked policy at all. That would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been nice. But, no, my biggest fucking takeaway from the debates, and I put this up on our Instagram, was something that I feel like you said that there were certain things that were indefensible, and this to me is indefensible. Mm-hmm. The President of the United States, mm-hmm. the Commander-in-Chief, the man who is in charge of the free world, refused to outright denounce the support.
He didn't refuse. He commanded them.
He refused to denounce
their leader.
The support of white supremacy groups, and he refused to denounce the support of white supremacists. Mm-hmm. And as a person of color, and even if I was not a person of color, mm-hmm. that is not the image that I want floating mm-hmm. out there. I don't want to have to sit here and explain to my 12-year-old, yeah, the president backs the Proud Boys, is backed by the Proud Boys, or he proudly takes their support. And he proudly takes the support of the KKK, and he proudly takes the support of anybody who likes him. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think that's what it boils down to, is that his ego is so out of control that he will take, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Stalin. It doesn't matter if it's Hitler. It doesn't matter if it's Mao. It doesn't matter if it's who it is. If they mm-hmm. support him, he supports them. And I think that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Very.
It's outright fucking dangerous that the guy who is in charge of the nuclear goddamn command codes, the man who is in charge of the military, the man who is supposed to be the symbol for law and order, takes support from fucking hate groups.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was that was the most troubling line of the entire night, was not only just the fact that he couldn't do it, he couldn't denounce it. It was when he said, who do you want it to be? Who name one, right? And they went Proud Boys. And he went, Proud Boys. What did he say? Stand down and stand by.
Stand by, exactly.
Stand down and stand by. Just wait.
If he's going to issue commands.
Await further orders from your commander-in-chief. And I was like, holy shit. like it's just, no, I mean, I hope Trump did enough in that debate to lose. If he wasn't going to already, he already had a sizable dip. Biden got a bump from that. Mm-hmm. One of the metrics I saw recently, I don't actually know that if it was before the debate or after, but it was an interesting metric. Trump won women of a certain demographic that I'm not going to remember off the top of my head. It's a certain age group and I don't remember what it is. I'm not going to pretend. But it was specifically, I think, white women. He won over Hillary something by like 9 points, right? Mm-hmm. And Biden has the lead with that group this time around by 14 points. So there was like a 25-point swing in support in that demographic away from Trump. If you look at it that way, if you want to maneuver numbers that way, which I do. And, it's like, oh, okay, at least somebody's starting to realize who this guy is.
Well, not just that, but one of the things that I thought was really telling was that he's won over Republican Floridians. He's won over one of the groups that, for me, for years, has been extremely difficult for the Democrats to win. He's won over the Cuban Republicans.
Who are you saying, Biden, or are you saying
Biden?
Oh, okay.
They came out in support of him.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. No, I know. the Cuban Republican, party essentially has been tight knit for years. So yeah, that's very interesting to see that swing. That's good.
Yeah, I can't get over and to me that like I said, that moment alone made the debates worthwhile, and because it was very telling to me. It told me everything I need to know. I don't fucking see anybody from here on out. That's the proof that I'm going to point to. That's the thing that I'm going to say. Why don't you like Trump? I was like, because before to me, that's been the strongest piece of evidence. Not as if you needed much evidence to begin with. It's not like he's got the greatest track record to begin with. But now with that moment, it's like, okay, no, it's not an argument anymore. Fucking like you can say it's true. Not all Trump supporters are racist, but I guarantee you that all racists are Trump supporters.
Okay. Well, then we can get to your news story.
Okay, so we'll do my news story. And
so shortly after the debate, we had a good 24 hours, 48 hours to talk about the debate.
Shortly after the debates, I think we talked about, so the debates were on Tuesday night, and I know because I watched them while I was working on something for something important. Mm-hmm. But I was sitting there, and I was up late night Thursday going into Friday morning, and I happened to catch the news that Trump tested positive for COVID-19 after his lead advisor, one of his lead advisors, also tested positive for COVID-19. And in that time, the White House has become a hotbed of COVID-19 positive testing results. Yep. Today, I most recently read that the lead general in the Defense Department is now self-quarantining because he tested positive. So there is a outbreak that is occurring in the White House, and many people are pointing to the callous and I don't know what other words I could throw at this. The reckless behavior that Trump himself has perpetuated since the very beginning of this outbreak in the country. Yep. He has been reckless. He refuses to wear a mask. He refuses to ask the people who support him to wear a mask. That you can look at during the debates, nobody in the Trump camp was wearing a mask. No one.
My favorite rebuttal to all this when the news broke was Colbert, when he said oh, up until now you've done nothing to endanger anyone. Really, for a rebuttal, can we have Herman Cain? Remember Herman Cain? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went to a Trump rally and he died of COVID.
Herman Cain's dead?
He died of COVID after he got it at a Trump rally.
Jesus Christ.
You don't remember that on the news?
No, I don't remember. This is what I'm saying. It's so much shit that gets flung at you that you miss these little tidbits.
Yep. He got COVID. He passed due to complications with it or the disease itself. I don't know how they term it. And when they contact traced him, it was he got it at a Trump rally where nobody was wearing masks. And and they're and they just keep rolling with the same story.
But that's not my news story. That's not my news story. It's not my news story is not that the president came down with COVID, although I think it's fucking highly ironic. I think it's highly ironic because you have all it is very ironic. You can say that it's not, and I know why you're saying it because you're trying to maintain some decorum of
I'm worrying about irony.
I appreciate you for it because I know what you're trying to do, but my journalistic integrity, whatever integrity I may have, is out the window because my president's a fucking racist and I refuse to support that now. So that's the the sign that I'm clinging. That's the thing that I'm shouting from the fucking mountains.
Okay.
But regardless, it is ironic. It is highly ironic that you have Democrats who are now wishing him well when we know damn well if Joe Biden had contracted COVID, that he would be making fun of him and using it as a means to point out how weak he is. But everybody else is sitting there. And one thing I will give Biden, I'll give him points, because I listened to the speech that he gave that morning, that Friday morning after he found out. And one of the points that he hammered home, I think at least, is that, you know, the president's going to get the best care that any person in the free world will receive. But not everybody has access to that same level of care. Not everybody has access to the medicines. Not everybody has access to doctors that will sit there, the best doctors that will sit there and try to figure out how to keep this man alive. And my news story, really, more than anything, is this. The president decided on Sunday, because he got it into his mind that he was looking weak. So he got it into his mind that he was going to do a joyride while testing positive for COVID-19, while being a morbidly obese man in his 70s, which is three things right there that put him at risk. More than anybody. He's morbidly obese. He's 70-something years old. And he's, man, he decided to go for a fucking joyride in an SUV with two Secret Service agents who now have to go in quarantine, who are in a hermetically sealed car with a contaminated person to a virus that has killed 210,000 Americans and has hospitalized more than 1 million. On top of that, he leaves Walter Reed's hospital 3 days after going in. He takes his mask off on the White House lawn. Today, he got on Twitter and tweeted, and I don't follow business news whatsoever, but I happen to know for a fact that the Dow Jones was up 200 points today. It was up 200 fucking points in the middle of all the shit that's going on. The financial market is doing better. And with a single tweet saying that he refuses to put out any type of aid or stimulus package any further, to focus on promoting his Supreme Court nominee, to stop the stimulus talks with the Democrats, because he feels like the Dow Jones dropped 260 fucking points before closing with that single tweet within 2 minutes.
Dropped or upped?
Dropped.
Oh, okay.
Dropped. So what I'm saying is, what I want to talk about, my news story, is the callous and fucking reckless behavior that the president has shown for the last week, from the debates to contracting COVID to risking and endangering the lives of the people around him, to risking and endangering the lives of his Secret Service, to risking and endangering the lives of the people who work with him. I would hate to be in the White House right now, because it's almost guaranteed your chances of catching COVID have gone up 75 fucking percent just being in the goddamn White House. He drops the Dow Jones 260 points. So how much more does this country have to, like, again, and he's a fucking racist. So how much more do we have to endure, folks? How much before we say, okay, we're done with this? This is like, you know, and he's going around and now this last week after the debates, he's going around telling everybody how he's not leaving office.
Oh, he's been doing that for a while.
He's been doing that for a while, but
that's why they're stacking the court. That's what they're getting ready for, a battle where they can invalidate the U.S. election. They can say it just didn't happen.
We joked around about moving to Canada, but I don't think it's a joke anymore.
Dude, it took you a week to get up to my speed here. It's okay, man. They have great parka technology, man. You're gonna be warm up there. You're gonna be able to wear that coat.
And anybody who knows me knows that I hate the fucking cold. But at this point, I'll learn to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
I like leather coats.
You just get a good lining, man. You just get a good lining. You'll be fine.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna step off my soapbox because
Hey, man, say what you gotta say. It's cool. We can make the show about this. We're gonna talk about ancient aliens, for Christ's sake.
But I just don't know how much more we have to endure from the 76-year-old orange orangutan, 270-pound, wants to act like a 3-year-old.
Yep. Well, I mean, I was where you are right now with the protests. You know, when he was talking about how you got to put these people down, and you got to, you know, and then proved it by marching his Gestapo through a friggin' crowd of protesters so he could clear them out for a photo op. Like, he does, you know, and it's not even like I'm going to be that callous where I'm like, he doesn't even care about the American people, the average Joe. No, of course not. Of course he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, you can care about the system. You can care about the democracy. You can care about leaving something better than what you found it in terms of the entire massive system, you know, that's in place. That is the United States. If you have those goals, at least people do benefit from it. But Jesus, like, not only does he not actively care about that, he thinks he has unlimited power. He's always been cozy with the dictators of the world, and because he wants to be one, and he's trying to figure out how to do that. And we just have to not let that happen. That's all we have to do, and we just have to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you, if you're listening to this podcast, please, please, please vote. Get the fuck out and vote. And I'm going to stop calling it election day. I don't want to call it election night. I want to call it election month.
Yeah, because
that's what the best estimates are saying, that it can take weeks or a month. Because right now, people all over the country are voting. It's something like 46% of the country is voting via ballot.
Yeah.
Not ballot. Via mail-in ballot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they should, and that's the responsible thing to do in a pandemic. And quite frankly, I'm all for making it an app on my damn phone later on. Maybe then it wouldn't take my friggin' county. My application for my mail-in ballot has been with my county for what day is this? 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks, and they haven't mailed it out yet. They processed it, but they haven't mailed it out yet. So I'm hoping that they're just doing a bulk mailing, like at some point.
Yeah, I just got something in the mail today that said it should be here in the next couple of days. Or
cool.
The next
Pennsylvania, I don't know how many listeners we have in Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania has, you can go right to their website and track your ballot just based on your information, and it'll tell you where it is in the process. So,
yeah. And look, folks, listen, if you tuned in to listen to, sorry, I don't know what to tell you, but like, this is the news. This is what we've been dealing with. It's been a nonstop onslaught of just bullshit, and I'm sick and tired of it. I want to go back to, like, I never thought that I would fucking miss George W. Bush. I never thought that I would fucking think that, you know what, Mitt Romney is starting to look more and more attractive.
Oh, Mitt Romney has okay, here's the funny part. So Mitt Romney obviously lost to Barack Obama. Nobody's going to make a trade. But Jesus, if it was Biden versus Romney at this point, like there'd be a pretty good. I mean, Romney's been doing the right things. He really has. The times that he has had to toe the party line and had to toe the party line, like when he had to kiss the ring when friggin' Trump got nominated in 2016, and then he gave that press conference where he was like, "Hey, he won. What am I gonna do? He won." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does it with like a Jesus like look on his face, and I absolutely believe that man thinks or says exactly what he thinks.
And we have something else that happened too. I don't mean to turn this into the news show, and then this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on.
We can do it. We're so far into it at this point. We've been doing this for what? Half an hour?
36 minutes.
Yeah,
36 minutes. No, but I do want to get to the ancient aliens thing, because I feel like that's what we came here for.
Okay. All right.
And we can do. I think we need to do like a special or something.
Okay.
But this is the last thing I'll say, which may turn out to be a positive, negative, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
Apparently, there are now 3 new senators who have come down with COVID-19, to the point where the Senate may have to close down. And the reality of, and the reason I say it's a positive is because the reality of pushing through his Supreme Court nomination may get delayed.
Except they'll go to video conferencing. They already have it in place. So I don't think they're going to end the session. They may close the actual physical building and do everything remotely from that point, or at least from their offices, unless they vacate their offices. But I think they'll probably just do everything remotely, and they'll continue pushing. What do you think? What do you think the over under is on pushing a confirmation through?
If the Democrats have arrows in that goddamn quiver, they better fucking start using them.
They don't. They don't. They don't have the majority. It's the Senate. If it was the House, it would be a different story. It's the Senate. We just got to vote, man.
You know what? Let's go to the ancient alien things, because at this point, maybe I do need to be fucking abducted and somebody get me off this fucking planet. I am done. I'm fucking done. At this point, I'll take the probing. I welcome it.
The news is
probing.
The news has been probing us for months now. At least I could do it in a room with a view.
If they let me just look out the window while they do it. This is how, and folks, for months we have purposely avoided covering Trump. We really have. We meet for an hour to 5 minutes before we hit tape this show, because we'll talk. We purposely go out of our way to look for news stories that don't have anything to do, but it has become increasingly. I can't say it enough times. I'll say it so many times it doesn't even sound like a real word anymore. It can't be done.
Yep.
All right. The aliens. I welcome our alien overlords.
Well, apparently they've always been here, my friend. Always been here. Oh, you're just late to the game. That's what it is. What do you like about the theory, the base of the ancient aliens or ancient alien astronauts, or however they term it? What do you like about their Prometheus theory?
So I feel like I have to start this off by saying this. I'm a man of science. I love science. I believe in science. If science were a religion, that's probably what my religion would be. It is
science be praised.
I believe in the almighty atom. Atom with a T, not D. No. That's how much faith and belief I have in science. I've always been a strong proponent of it. I try when my emotions get too high, I try to let it be my compass. So I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I enjoy. Not only do I enjoy the show, but I actively look it out and
you avidly watch this show.
Oh yeah, and I realized that the Ancient Aliens show is my guilty pleasure. This is my trash TV. It's my Honey Boo Boo. It's my fucking Real Housewives of LA. It's my Real Housewives of New Jersey. It's my Real Housewives of DC, Atlanta, the Potomac, whatever else other shows.
How do you know all of those shows?
It's my Dancing with the Stars because I looked it up in preparation for this.
It's good. Oh, you have more?
Oh yeah, I could do this for another 2 minutes. It's my Dancing with the Stars. It's my Jersey Shore. It's my, anything and everything that could considered be that could be considered trash TV.
Love Island.
The Bachelor.
The Bachelorette. Let's be fair. Equal time.
Yeah. This is that show for me. That show that I am embarrassed to admit that I like, that I enjoy, and oftentimes when I'm on vacation, because one of the few things when I have to stay in hotel rooms from time to time. One of the things that I can, I've been in situations where I've, for work or because I'm traveling or whatever, I have to be in a hotel room. And one of the stations that you can always count on from that will come through the cable TV that they give you in a hotel room is History Channel. And one of the things that always seems to be playing, particularly late night, is Ancient Aliens.
Absolutely. Because there's nothing better than getting trashed and watching Ancient Aliens for like 14 hours.
So, I feel like I have to lead with that. I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't buy into the philosophies. What I do enjoy about the show is that every now and I was talking about this with my cousin because he enjoys the show too. Mm-hmm. And I talked with my brother. My brother enjoys the show too. And one of the things that we every now and then they'll salt and pepper just enough science to make it somewhat plausible.
Yeah.
Even just for a fucking few minutes. But they also sandwich in that science with so much bullshit.
Well, they do it with all like conjecture. So they do start from a plausible place. This happened, right? Even if it's like they pulled the reference from like the Bible or another religious book, they preface it with, okay, this happened. This is a historical moment in time, right? Even when you look at one of the episodes was Joan of Arc, right?
Yeah. One of the episodes talked about Joan of Arc and the history. Because I was brushing up to prepare for this. I was doing a little bit of research. Yep. It talks about like the history of religious figures, and Joan of Arc was one of them that they talked about.
So you look at like Joan of Arc. You look at there are many others. Da
Vinci. I did not. They devoted an entire goddamn episode to Da Vinci, and how Da Vinci was essentially inspired by, or he was either inspired by, spoken to by the alien, by ancient aliens.
Taught is how they would really do it. He was educated by aliens. Now I'm going to apologize if my audio changes. I just realized my phone's going to die, so I'm going to plug in and take my headset out.
No, we have.
So
that's sound better.
All right. So that is one of the. That's one of the problems I have with the show. Which, by the way, my love for the show it goes in a different direction than you. I believe wholeheartedly in everything that they know. They take a little session of truth, like a historical point. And then what they do is they start doing that what if and maybe, and it could be, and they do it so slowly, and they spiral out from there, where by the end of it, it's the Greys. They did it.
The Greys. Shout out to the Greys.
Shout out to, by the way. And if Stargate SG-1 is any indication, a little guy named Thor. That's my guy. He's don't forget me in the Armageddon that you're bringing forth, or somebody else is bringing forth.
Can I point out something to you? I realized that when we were talking about this a few minutes ago, we were talking about the preface of the show and how Stargate SG-1. I think that's initially what drew me. I love that movie. Stargate is one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
Great. It's a great preface. Great preface. What if it's real, and what would their motivation be? And based on our own human history, we know exactly what their motivation would be. It would be exactly what ours is, which is dominate whoever's next to you so that you can be happy.
Yeah, but then there's the ancient aliens where they talk about the Anunnaki, and they talk about Sitchin, the teachings of Sitchin, and how essentially the Anunnaki, these aliens that came to us from Orion's belt, they basically genetically modified the human race from existing Neanderthals.
Yep.
Or hominids, and they essentially created us to be their slave race so that we could
mine gold for them.
Mine gold for them, yes.
Yep, and
gold is a precious metal.
It especially in space, we use it today in space travel. It's what is it? Inert? Is that the word?
It doesn't rust.
Right, it doesn't rust, and it's a good insulator.
It's a terrific insulator, and it's also great for it's a great electric conductor.
Yep. So it's invaluable in space. It's pimp my spaceship. That's what it is.
It's a great insulator too.
Exactly. That and mica. For some reason, mica is right up there too.
Yeah, mica is another one, which is even rarer than gold.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, it can't. First off, it can't be, because you can go up to my old hometown up in Maine, and you can go about an hour away from that, and you can just pick up sheets of it. It's just garbage on the side of the road.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something. For some reason, I think I was thinking of lithium.
Oh, okay.
There's certain precious metals. I know that they use them. There's certain metals that are extremely important and extremely rare, and we're starting to run out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're used mainly to build circuit boards for like cell phones and things of that nature.
Micah, the one fact that I got off of this show that I went, huh, really? Is one of the key components in the heat shield for like the old space shuttle was mica, because it'll take the heat very well. So it's like cooked into the paint or whatever the shielding is on that.
The thermal shielding that they use on the space shuttles.
Yes. Yeah, for reentry, they use a lot of mica, and I'm like, cool, because it's like 5 cents a pound. It's nothing. But yeah, no. So that's one of that chronologically. That's one of the key cornerstones of their theory is exactly at a Stargate. We were developed as a slave race, and then when they got enough of the ore, which I guess could reasonably say why gold is so rare now, they took all of it. They stole our gold.
Except the gold is not that rare. If you were to liquefy all of the gold that's on Earth, it would be enough to cover the planet up to knee-deep puddles of gold.
Okay, but if you also did the same thing for granite, would there be more of that?
Yes, there would. There would be way more granite. Okay.
So relatively rare. But yeah, so that's where they that's their jumping off point. is that they genetically engineered us, and that's why we don't have a missing link, because there wasn't one. There was what there was, and then there was this whole new thing that was us. It's funny hearing them talk about how like evolution, like Darwinism, is maybe called into question by this theory, and then also reading other scientific articles that call Darwin out on the carpet. I'm like, who influenced who? Do you think in the scientific community there's anyone going, yeah, that's a good point, when they listen to
ancient aliens? Well, and this is the other thing. They get guests that lend credibility to some of the stuff that they're saying. Dr. Derek Pitts, who happens to be the lead astronomer at the Franklin Institute, was on the show. The head of NASA's JPL laboratory, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was on the show. At one point, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, Neil deGrasse Tyson was on the show. Like, what? They have had, and correct me, I could be wrong on that one. I haven't gotten, because I started rewatching it to prepare for this, and I got through to like season 4. But because we started talking about this episode maybe 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Time has no meaning anymore.
Exactly. But so they have people who lend credibility to the show, that come on the show, and they're usually talking about it's usually the 5 or 6 minutes, and I've been floored because I've been rewatching, and I'm like, oh, that's Dr. Pitts. That's the head of NASA's JPL. That's the head of Cornell's medical division. That's the head. Like, there are all these scientists who come on, and it would lend but one thing it has taught me is that if you have a discerning eye, you can tell, a discerning ear, you can tell that those people are there to talk about the specific moment that they are there on the show for.
It's also very good editing.
It's also excellent editing. It's excellent editing.
Because if it was Dr. Tyson, the conversation went, well, yeah, and then they used the next bit where he says this, and this, and then they cut the last part where he goes, but you guys are fucking idiots. No, my favorite one is when they get priests on there.
Yes.
They get priests on there all the time, and they're like, yeah, in this book and in this revelation or in this accounting from the Bible, here's what happened. And then that's it. That's what they were there for. You can go away now, because when you start going, yeah, and God's an alien, he just said he was God. That's when you lose them. So you get them out of the room.
The host, Giorgio Salakos.
Okay. Dude with the hair?
Yes, the dude with the hair, the ancient aliens guy from the meme with the tall hair.
And I hate him for his hair, by the way. I'm so jealous. I used to do that. I used to wear my hair up. It was right after the ponytail. Don't judge me.
He does a really good job of just chiming in, and when he chimes in, it's usually, well, what I think is that these people believe this, but then if you take this idea and you extrapolate it and you pull forth, you realize that and it's literally anything, because he does it with everything. You realize that they were talking about ancient aliens, these ancient aliens that came here, and if they're talking about God, then God was an alien. And if they were talking about the dinosaurs, then the dinosaurs were just wiped out to make space for the invasion force.
Yeah.
And if they were talking about religion, then, if they were one of the things that I know, there's certain themes that keep popping up all the time. The ancient Egyptians, and they play a huge part in the show.
They're absolutely using that one and that actually brings me to one of my points. So when they talk about the Egyptians, I think they bring them up almost first and foremost because that's the one that the average person, right, the average American anyway, will go, Egypt, I know that one, right? And they use that as like a jumping off point, like a touchstone to get people in. Like, okay, this part I get. And then they go on and blow our minds. The one thing in the show that I can't get my brain around, I cannot get my brain around, and I cannot, well, I with a grain of salt, my suspension of disbelief is at its highest when they start talking about, okay, so you have this arrangement of pyramids in Egypt, right, that mimic Orion's belt, right? And then they go, you also have the same thing over in South America and over in Scotland and over in, right, and they say, and they all popped up around the same time ish.
Right.
And how would everyone have come up with that idea on their own? And that I agree with. Now, I think it wasn't necessarily aliens. I think it could have also been we were trading with the rest of the world and we were a worldwide economy way earlier than we give ourselves credit for. That's right. But the idea that they're all flying around and seeing each other and skipping off of magnetic fields and we were all together in a world economy like that is way more appealing. It's way more fun.
Okay. I mean, one of the ideas that I do think they possibly lend credence to is the idea that they've had Graham Hancock on the show, and I've said this before. Graham Hancock has this really great quote. He says that humanity is a species with amnesia.
Yes. Yep. And they that on this show, they play into it because they're like,
lean into it very hard.
We could have forgotten, but most likely everything that we wrote down is 100% true. So maybe we don't have amnesia. We just haven't read the book a lot. And if we read the book and we take it as Hoyle, then it means aliens.
Well, there exists the possibility that there were societies that may have advanced to a certain point where they just stopped writing things down. I mean, we right now in the modern age have advanced to the point where we don't write things down anymore. Everything is stored digitally. Everything is stored. And I'm not saying that they had micro SD cards back during.
Aren't you?
But I'm also not saying that it's not possible. What I'm saying is that we have already progressed to the point where we don't write things down anymore. We don't use the same types of technology.
Cursive was outlawed recently.
I mean, yeah, it's to the point where now when you write, you want to confuse people? Write in cursive. If you don't believe me, folks, take a those of you who still out there who can still write in cursive, write something in cursive and put it up on your social media and see what people's reactions to it are. Because if they're the same age as you, they're going to react to it like, oh, okay, it's cursive. But if it's anybody younger, they're going to look at that shit like it's hieroglyphics.
And I have started claiming it on my resume as a second language. It's the only one I'm ever going to get.
I mean, it's almost to the point where it is a dead language. All right. So all I'm saying is that there exists a possibility that there were, I mean, like if you think about the idea of storing things digitally, if technology fails tomorrow, like let's say that a huge electromagnetic pulse washes over the earth and it's not possible, that form of technology that we have would be rendered useless, and it would be a matter of 1 or 2 generations before we are back to the Stone Age again. Back to a less sophisticated time, and the knowledge that has been gained over the last 500 years will be lost. I mean, one of the things that they pointed out in the show, which I thought was really interesting, is that the steam engine was invented 1,500 years before it was properly understood and used.
The only model we have of that was a toy.
Yes. Yes.
And it was, or you could call it a theoretical model, which is what I call it, that they couldn't practically upscale. But it was there. You're right.
So all I'm saying is that there exists a possibility that humanity, like I said, humanity is a species with amnesia, and we may have progressed several times in our past to the point where we are today, and then just lost it because it wasn't stored the way in a manner that was conducive to surviving the ravages of time, or to surviving the ravages of a disaster. Because right now, if a meteorite hits the Earth tomorrow, God forbid, right, and it just wipes out 90% of the human population, that's it. All the history and all the knowledge that we've gained over the last 500, 600, 700 years is gone. We're back to the Middle Ages.
Yep. So let me ask you this though, because obviously, yes, we've started and stopped a few times in our history. I think we all can agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all got taught in school about the Dark Ages. Where learning essentially stopped because, and the way they attribute it in the school lessons is people in power took over and decided to keep people dumb, right? And I think that was the takeaway, at least I got from studying the Dark Ages and then the Renaissance. So obviously stops and starts and whatnot. The question that I want to ask is, there were people that understood astrology back in the day, right?
Sure.
Like super early. It's evident in the physical remnants of some of the
astrology or astronomy.
Astronomy. Sorry, astronomy. Apologies.
Okay.
I misspoke there. They understood the position of the stars in relation to the Earth, and you can see that in stone monuments all over the world. Now, when you watch a show like this, it says, obviously we were taught that, which immediately says we couldn't come up with that on our own.
Yeah. And that honestly, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I find that problematic because we are, there are individuals that notice things all the time. You know what I mean? And then work with that. And my thing is, like, think way back in the day. You had to hunt, you had to gather, right? You had to maybe build shelter. And then somebody noticed in their off time when they didn't have a TV or a phone, all they had to look at was the stars. You don't think somebody noticed a pattern?
Well, and that's the thing that I think bothers me the most about this show. As much as I enjoy the show, the thing that really bothers me the most about it is how insulting it is to our ancestors.
Yes, agreed. They think they were all idiots. There's no way we would have gotten to where we are today without the help of someone who was smart.
And that is especially insulting to the Mayans. It's especially insulting to the ancient Egyptians. It's especially insulting to the people who inhabited Peru, who discovered the Nazca Line, who created, the Nazca Lines. All these great structures, all these great things that we have accomplished as a people. It's incredibly insulting to diminish their works because we can't figure out how
they did it.
Like, I can hand you a fucking microchip. Wait, you know what? I'll go back with the example that I gave earlier. I can hand you a micro SD card.
Okay.
And you use it all the time, right?
Am I going with, I don't know what this is, or am I going with?
You know what it is, but tell me how it works.
Oh, I put it in my phone and it does stuff.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, this microphone works. It works, but I can't explain to you. I mean, I could try to bullshit my way through an explanation, but I can't give you the intricate details of how this microphone works because I don't have knowledge of that. I can sit there and tell you, look, if you told me that there were gremlins in this motherfucking microphone.
They carry your words and they go to the through the cord, and then they give them to other gnomes that make it go on digitally.
Right.
Yes.
So I think it's incredibly insulting to our ancestors who figured out how to do things, who figured out how to, with stone tools, with copper tools. They figured it out, and there's something there that's lost, obviously, but it was not aliens. To the ancient alien or the ancient astronaut theorist, because that's what they call themselves.
Yes.
Humanity is a child that needs to be held by the hand and walked through everything that we have done.
Yep.
It can't be, no, we figured this shit out. We just don't know how we figured it
out. What do you think? Because there are a lot of people that watch that, right? Mm-hmm. And they watch it like we do. There are people that subscribe to the theory, the religion. You were making it a point that it was kind of like a religion at one point. And
I think it's very much a religion.
Yeah. And so there are people that subscribe to that. What do you think feeds that from someone's own personal experience and seeing how the world is operating today? What do you think gives credence to that argument?
It's exactly what I was just talking about with you with the micro SD card. I can't explain it. And because I can't explain it, it's got to be above me. It has to be.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, it's this mentality of because we've gotten to a point in our society that we're so specialized with the knowledge that we have. You know, people. And one of the things that I love about Neil deGrasse Tyson is that he tells people all the time, I'm not that smart. You know, I know about this much stuff. And if you ask me about this range of topics, I can sound like the world's smartest person. But if you go up to something, right. And it's the same thing. If I sat there and I talked to somebody who lives and breathes sports, like we're all these individual nerds. We have these fandoms, if you will, right? Yep. Fandom Fridays, folks.
Good plug.
We all have these special fandoms that we are knowledgeable about. And if you talk to somebody who's into sports, they're going to sit there and rattle off sports statistics for the next 2 or 3 hours if you let them, because they're passionate about it, because they're knowledgeable about it. But that doesn't mean that soccer was invented by ancient astronauts that wanted, you know what I mean? Like there's this,
or the person telling you about it right now. Like if I went off on a football rant, I didn't invent football. I just know a lot about it, and that's the thing that I think people miss. Is that you can be passionate about something. You can understand a lot, the ins and outs of everything that is currently understood about what we are looking for. You can even have a great idea on your own. I mean, if we take my example and we go back to when guys are looking at the stars and they notice that the same stars come over around the same day every year, like clockwork, right? And they can start to use that clock to predict things. That doesn't mean they're a god. That means that they figured something out and they're telling people about it. Right?
Yeah. So, and one of the things that we do as human beings is that we hoard knowledge, right? Because knowledge is power. It is very much power. Yep. And if I know, and in the hoarding of that knowledge, one of the things that we do is that we use that knowledge to control others. Well, I know this, but you don't know this. So you need me because I can explain this to you.
Yeah.
And we do that now. That's essentially what a college degree is. That's essentially what a college degree is. When you have somebody that goes to college and they specialize in a field, they're depending on the hoarding of their knowledge to carry them through to a successful career and life.
And make them more money in the process because they're overvalued. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So it's not this, but it's not this impossible idea. It's just the hoarding of knowledge. And if that knowledge isn't shared, it can get lost.
Yep.
It can be lost to the ravages of time.
Yep. Well, they do use that in that show regarding, kind of thinking we need to be handheld, and that's the only explanation. I think we both agree that is a false premise.
Yes.
I think we are more than capable of coming up with things, and there are trial and errors, and we take step back sometimes as a species, and then we regain that knowledge and we work from there. I think that's absolutely fine. What do you think about the idea that anything that flew in mythology
had to be a spaceship?
Absolutely a spaceship, 100% of the time, every time. My thought is, like, if you see something, right, and their premise is, if I see something that's flying and I can't wrap my brain around it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people I saw an animal similar to what they would understand, because that's all I understand, and I'm going to make up a story about it, and that's what's going to go down in history. And then in almost the same episode, they will talk about how we all understand that metal works a certain way. We've been working with it for hundreds of thousands of years, and we know how to make it harder. We know how to make it glisten. We know how to shine it up. We know how to make jewelry out of it, but we don't understand it when it's airborne.
Right. Yeah. Again, I think it's incredibly insulting because they do lean heavily on that, and like
I like the concept. I do like the concept as pushing their narrative. I think it's a smart play to go for that. But I think it puts too much. I think it's too far a stretch for when they're trying to figure out what was going on in a particular like air battle. They were very big on the air battles, especially in the all I want to say is Necronomicon, and I know it's not that. What was the Indian one?
The Indian text. The I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to slaughter the pronunciation.
Oh,
there's an ancient Indian text.
Yes.
That talks about their gods fighting this great war and battles, and it's basically their mythology.
Yeah. Now the flying carpet one I kind of like as a spaceship. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them talking about firing things from artifacts like tridents and staves and things. I'm okay with that. And waging a war battle. But when they start saying that the bird or the angel or the what have you, a dragon, all of them blanketly were absolutely spaceships that were just misunderstood by the poor idiots on the ground. I have a problem with that one.
Because they much like a religion, they take everything that is meant to be metaphorical and they make it literal.
Mm-hmm.
So if in the stories about Zeus threw a lightning bolt,
mm-hmm.
It's literal. It's not metaphorical anymore, and then it runs the risk of and it's very much, I think, a religion at this point. That if you subscribe to that, it has become your religion.
It's funny because when I was growing up and I was actually going to church, and I'm talking very, very young, like sub 14 years old. If I ever had a question about something that didn't make sense in a book or a passage, they would go, whoever was teaching at that point, whether it was the priest or nuns or whoever, they would go, right, you're looking too literally at this. you need to think of the message that it is trying to tell, because this was all written in a form that was completely like just poetic, right? It's all metaphor. And I think that getting away from like the out and out text, right? In terms of how it was written, and if you subscribe to it being an account of what happened, like a historical account, if you get away from that and you start trying to get people to think in terms of metaphor, so you can shape your message better and people will buy it a little better, it gives birth to the ability for another religion to come in and pick it apart and say, you're looking at it wrong. You have to look at it logically, and you can bring it back.
Well, again, there's a reason why children are indoctrinated into their beliefs at a young age, because that's when you're most malleable. That's when your mind is the most malleable. It's going to be. And that's when you don't question things as heavily or as hard or as, I mean, at least you would hope.
Not as aggressively.
Yep. And I think that's part of this thing with the whole ancient alien or the ancient astronaut or the, whatever you want to talk about. And listen, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to say that the show is all bullshit, because there are valid points that it makes every now and then.
They always give you a little kernel of something that makes you think, which is what I really enjoy about the show. Mm-hmm. Because I go, okay, well, if it wasn't aliens and it wasn't us,
Like, one of the greatest mysteries in human biology is how we went from how the brain size of hominids and our ancestors doubled and tripled and quadrupled in the span of 100 million years.
I wrote down a point on this.
That's right, folks, because we take notes.
They're really big. They're really big on the FOXP2 gene.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Oh my God, I love you.
The FOXhead, full name, FOXhead box protein 2. One of the assertions that they made on the show was that this is the protein in our DNA that separates us from the rest of the known natural world. Right? Mm-hmm. This is the thing that gives us speech, potentially.
Yes.
This is the thing that sets us apart from everyone else. That one's since been debunked. Kind of. Partially. There are, this is where my science fails me. There are 2 proteins within that box. Does that make sense? Does that check out?
Yes.
Scientifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought I remembered it correctly. There are 2 proteins within that box that are not shared, but not the whole gene itself. So that is shared with other creatures, like orangutans have it, but they're like 2 proteins off within that box gene, if I'm explaining that correctly. So there are some that are very similar and have it, but not like us. So it's a subtle manipulation if you're going to subscribe to that.
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting was, like, I read a paper in preparation for this that was talking about how there's related to the F2 gene, the FOX2 protein gene. There is the ones that so we don't have a very strong bite force compared to other primates.
Yeah.
And part of that is because the jaw muscles are not anchored in our skull the same way.
Aren't they?
No. They're not, because
I feel so good in my jaw.
If you look at the skull of a gorilla, their jaw muscles are anchored. They're anchored all the way back into a crest that forms into the skull. But in order for them to have that powerful bite force that they do, guess what they sacrifice? Intelligence.
Brain mass.
Okay, so there. One of the arguments that was made on the show was that, and I thought it was interesting. It's like I said, every now and then they pepper in some some good stuff. Is that gene could have been a random mutation,
mm-hmm.
and it just so happened that it doubled or tripled our brain mass.
It took the lap band straps off of the back of our head so we could expand out.
Yeah.
Nice. I like the theory that we just ate a shit ton of mushrooms for like 100,000 years.
The stone date theory, yes.
I like that way more, because I just think, like, our ancestors just sitting around like Bill and Ted, just like, bro, do you see all those shiny things in the sky?
For those of you who don't know, the stone date theory basically says that one of the things that happened with primates is they experiment with new foods. And and this is supported by some of the meteorological evidence at the time of when we were just stepping out of the jungles, the lowland savannas. One of the things that would happen is that, like chimpanzees do this now, they flip over turds.
Mm.
They'll come across like a cow patty or something like that, and they'll flip it. Not that there would be a cow in the jungle, but they'll flip over a patty of shit. Mm-hmm. And growing underneath that patty is mushrooms, because we know that mushrooms. And so the stone date theory says that by consuming these hallucinogenic mushrooms,
we expand, literally.
We literally expanded our brain to the degree and point where it's quadrupled in size in the span of 100 million years.
I like that way better. But you can only imagine how much of our population got bumped off in the wild while we were just all laying around stoned. It's like, where's Steve? Oh, Steve's not here anymore, man.
Steve got eaten.
Steve got taken away, man. It's okay. We're closer to the middle. We're gonna be fine. That's where we got real estate. Location, location, location. But yeah. What about their conspiracy theory bent? Everything's a cover-up. Mainstream archaeology doesn't want you to know, because they're all egomaniacs and they don't want everything they built up to be just torn down because we've learned about new things. Is that feasible? Is that viable at all, or is that just a good talking point? Like when Trump was like, "Oh, don't get me near smart people," like.
There's a if you're in certain academic circles, mm-hmm. there's an argument that occurs between archaeologists and mainstream scientists, like biologists or chemists, because archaeology requires you to take art history, which is not necessarily a science.
Okay, well, first off, take your science hat off. No. Don't belittle the art history people, all right?
No, I'm not belittling the art history people. But I'm presenting an argument that they use. I'm presenting an argument that's used.
Oh, for example. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So one of the arguments that they use is that because these people have a stronger like art history and art appreciation, that there's certain ideas. And look, the reality of the situation is that there are ideas that we cling to. You know, before Einstein, before every great scientific discovery that's been made, there's always somebody who's like, no. This is what it was. This is what it is. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about science, is that if you follow, and mind you, as I say that, I'm not necessarily saying that people adhere to that, because even within science, there are people who adhere to old ideas because they're old ideas. It's
Pluto's a planet. Fight me.
Right. Perfect example.
Thanks for example. Don't fight.
I'll fucking destroy you. Anyway.
I know. That's why I put the disclaimer out there.
No, I'm kidding. I'm a pacifist. I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, until I say Pluto's a planet in your face. I'll be like, no, it is not.
Well, Pluto was a planet up until 2006, until we expanded the definition of the word planet to mean something completely different from what it meant before that.
Because we found something slightly bigger than Pluto in the asteroid belt, and we figured out it was just a big old fucking asteroid.
Right, and I think that's part of the thing that happens with this ancient aliens thing. Ideas get introduced, and people have a hard time letting go of these ideas.
Yep. Now I do like it does feed in when you look at like well, a little bit. It feeds it a little bit. When you look at Egypt specifically and their tourist trade and the sort of known history that they're kind of marketing on and selling on and have the brand recognition of, if they had a earth-shattering like discovery in like in Egypt, right? Then they would have to kind of rewrite all that and resell it again, which I don't actually see as a bad thing. I think a nice little rebranding would be nice. But like the theory that the pyramids are actually way, and the Sphinx specifically are way older than they've ever dated them to be. Mm-hmm. Because wouldn't that be an amazing waterfront property? Well, if you want the Nile to be next to where that construction site was, it would have to be like 10,000 years older than it's currently dated at, because that's just the movement of the river away. And they say they have geological evidence to show that, and they have geological evidence of water erosion on the Sphinx. It shows it was in a very like almost jungle-like, almost, I'm thinking Amazon in my head. I don't know if it was ever to that extent, but it was built in that kind of environment, and then it dried out as the river moved and everything else changed.
And most Egyptologists would laugh at that theory.
Right, exactly, except that there's hard evidence that is being presented. Now, whether that evidence is actually scientifically viable, I'm not going to be able to say, but that is out there. And the folks like the ancient aliens folks and like many other like fringe scientists, like what do they call those? What's that designation? Like when they're kind of on the outskirts?
Fringe science, yeah. Or pseudoscience.
Pseudo or fringe science folks that are saying, no, you have to look at this evidence. Are they talking out of school, or are they actually onto something there?
They could be. They could be. Like I said, it takes us a very long time. Mm-hmm. When I was in school, I don't remember a lot. I mean, I remember a lot, but I don't remember a lot. if you catch my drift. And one of the things,
specific memories are fuzzy. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I remember hearing in one of my classes was, it takes a giant a very long time to turn around.
In business, they say it's hard to turn a big ship.
Right. And when an idea as old as the fact that the pyramids are X amount of years old mm-hmm. has been floated for so long, it takes an incredible amount of evidence to shift that mind thought, that convention of thinking, right? Like much like a giant, it takes a giant a long time to turn around. Yep. And that's not to say that they're wrong. It's not to say that they're right. It's just this is a hotly debated topic right now in Egyptologists.
Yep.
In and who's to say? 5 years from now we don't make some great discovery that's like, nope, we can't ignore this evidence anymore. The Sphinx is actually 10,000 years older than it is. Mm-hmm. Much the same way that, when when Hubble discovered that the universe was expanding, it took people 40 years to accept that idea.
To even run a second experiment on it, right? So they can like give it the light of day. Yeah. And that's where the Ancient Aliens theory is fun, because then you can imagine, you know, Glip-Glorp from Xenon 5 lands and goes, that's older than you think. That's older than you think. Here's how you levitate stone.
I think another thing that I think is appealing about this ancient alien idea is that it's kind of comforting.
Yeah.
To some people. It could be very comforting, the idea that, no, we've had like this and it's very much like religion. We've had this overlord that's watching over us.
And someday they will return and they will embrace us and give us more knowledge and we will be better for it. Yep. Yep. I agree.
And there's nothing, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
It's a comforting idea. I get it. You know, who's to say?
Yeah. You subscribe to that idea that we were a tool at one point, and that's the only reason we're here, that we were forgotten?
I mean, it makes for a great comic book.
Yeah, sure does, and has.
Because I mean, that's literally the theory of mutants in the Marvel universe, that these ancient alien overlords landed on Earth, messed around with the DNA of the species that was there, and that evidence of that messing around wouldn't pop up until the 1950s.
Right, when we finally got to that level for the first time where we understood the genome.
Well, in the comic books, it was Namor, the Submariner, the first mutant. But the point that I'm making,
I did not mean to speak ill of your sacred books.
And I think that's the big takeaway from this whole thing, that like any belief that is held on for too long starts to be, like you said, it starts to become a sacred book.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you eat it, live it, breathe it, if you take that nerddom to like a zealot level, you get there and you can believe in it. Now, I'm not saying that watching Ancient Aliens is dangerous.
I think one of the reasons why I enjoy the show is that I enjoy picking apart these ideas. And that's why
that skeptic itch that I have, where I want to look and I want to say, okay, I see what you're saying, but if you just look at it a little more logically, you can kind of see. But I do find myself having a lot more faith in people when I hear their argument. Is that weird that I'm finding people as like just sort of a knee-jerk reaction to an argument?
No, and I think that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast, is that we like to hear different ideas and we like to explore. You know, we're open-minded individuals.
True.
So it scratches that part of the brain.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So what do you think? Have you come up with any theories of your own after listening to these arguments? Because they are repetitive. I will say that about this show.
Oh my God.
It is serial in its repetitiveness.
Listen, as soon as they present an idea, I'm just like, all right, when are they going to start talking about Egypt?
Yeah.
They're never late. That bus is never late. Or they're going to start talking about the Mayans, or they're going to start talking about how it was lit. You know, no. This story was written down as a story. But if you take out the story aspect of it and look at it literally, those 4 or 5 themes repeat themselves in every single episode of the show.
And the only one I'll add to that is we can't pick up a heavy stone like that.
That rock weighs 20 tons.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, it is. It's nuts. And we don't know how to do it anymore because we forgot how we did it. except that one episode that they did on that one dude, I think he was Serbian, and he moved to like Southern California, and he built his own monoliths. You remember that one?
Yeah, but he did it in secrecy. He did it in secret, and nobody saw him.
Nobody could know how he did it, but he did it himself, and he did it. And the only thing that they couldn't figure out from what he left behind was there was a box on the top of a tripod he used as like a crane.
Right, but if you listen to them, they think it was a teleportation box or a levitation.
Anti-gravity box. That's what they think, and that's the only thing missing.
Except that this guy built these monoliths in Southern California in the 1930s.
Yeah. 20s, 30s, something like that. Yeah.
Right. So even now, like, people are doing things that we just can't explain. But that doesn't mean it was aliens.
You know, did I tell you what my dad did recently?
No, what did he do?
You went to my house in Maine. That barn, right, on the side of the house, it's a completely stone foundation. Huge, giant fucking stones that were all just laid there, right? They had all shifted over, it's a 200-year-old house. So they've all shifted and stuff. So he went around when he first retired, he went around and he fixed it. He fixed it with a fucking crowbar and other big rocks. And he just jimmied that shit back into shape. A 71-year-old man did that. You can do stuff. People are capable of doing things with the right knowledge of leverage and the right knowledge of how to maneuver things and patience. It took him a while.
I think that's the biggest thing too, is with this Ancient Aliens show, is that like the modern concept of patience doesn't exist, right? Like people just don't have the patience anymore. So it's hard for people to imagine, I'm going to build something and I'm going to start building it, but it's not going to get finished for another 100 years.
Right. Yep. Or months. And also, we have a predilection to want a silver bullet. We want, which, by the way, the best iteration of wanting something quickly is a silver bullet. Is that not the best concept? That's why that term is the term we use for wanting a quick fix, something that is just, this will do it and do it quick. It's so perfect. But yeah, we want it done, and we want it done now, and we want it, and anything beyond that is beyond our capability. So what do we need? And it plays into it. We need a savior. We need somebody to come down and just give us the answer and show us how to do it. And I agree. It plays this show. Let's pretend TV was out there in the 20s, right? If this show came out then and they were like, hey, I know there's like a depression going on, but that's okay because, aliens are going to fix it all for us. How many people would subscribe to that?
Yeah.
None. Yeah. None back then.
Back then?
Back
you
then,
don't think people would have subscribed to that?
They would. How many people would have subscribed to that in the 20s when everybody that was telling them it'll be okay, and then it all fell apart? And they had to figure it out for themselves. How many people would subscribe to that? None. Very few. They'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll just wait for the aliens. But meanwhile, I've got to feed my family and I've got to eat myself.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think we've picked this show apart.
Yeah, no, I agree. What's your main takeaway from it? Well,
it's just
it sounded like, just listening and also talking, it sounded like we were very critical of this show that we both watch a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's what I enjoy about the show is it forces me to be super critical. I don't buy into It's fun to imagine for about 5 minutes, and then it's like, oh, that's a good point. Oh, that is a good. And then like that part of my brain that's logical kicks in. And it's like, yeah, but this is why, and this is why, and this is why, and this is, and the whole show falls apart right there.
Yep. Yep. Mine is where I start to go, okay, I've watched maybe too many, I binged maybe a little too much of this, is when the script starts going, what if? that very great announcer that they have, their voice, that voice that they have that does their narration, he is amazing. And every time I start picking up on, well, what if this happened instead of what actually happened? Well, then anything could have happened, and ancient alien astronaut theorists think this. and that's where I start going, okay, now you have nothing.
And perhaps the answers to this problem in Ireland can be found somewhere in Tibet.
Yeah.
Or now that we presented this problem in Tibet, now let's go back to Africa and look at this situation. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they draw these connections and I think, if anything, if you're watching the show, it just, for me, it teaches me to be critical.
Yes. I agree.
So that's my reason.
It's not necessarily the content of the show, which is fun. If you suspend disbelief for the first 15 minutes of the episode, you're going to have a great time, because it does make you go, wow, what if? But then when that part kicks in, I think that's the best part of the show, when you can just look at it and go, okay, I know what you're saying. Let's look at it logically. Okay, I figured out this, that's the game. Did I figure out what this could have been logically and not aliens by the time the credits roll?
And I think it's good that two people like us, who don't necessarily subscribe to any of the philosophies of the show, can still enjoy the show. It just, I think it highlights that logic and just critical thinking can walk you through any situation.
Even when it's very compelling and very well produced. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's my takeaway. That should be your takeaway, folks. Is that I'm really big into science, and I'm really big into, but even I like to imagine, and it's okay to imagine, but I don't subscribe to it.
Yeah.
To suspend disbelief for a few moments, and then just belief comes back.
And not even belief at that point, just understanding what you're hearing is something that's trying to sell you something, which is probably just more episodes. So for that, we're buying. But, you have to be able to critically think through things, even though people are telling you, preaching to you what the truth is. Go ahead, be skeptical. If at the end of your skepticism and your logic and your problem solving, you're pretty much at the end of the road and you haven't beaten it, then definitely take it in. It's probably right. That isn't the show, but it's a heck of a lot of fun to watch.
And it's okay. It's like we said when we started this whole conversation, this is our Honey Boo Boo. Yep. It is our Dancing with the Stars, Bachelor, Jersey Shore, and all those other shows that we just watch because they're fun to watch and they don't actually provide any nutritional value. It's like
it gives us exercise mentally.
Right.
It does. But yeah, nutritional value, yeah.
There's no nutritional value in this whatsoever, but it's fun to eat.
Yeah, you gotta go watch like Blue Planet or or some other documentary afterwards to replenish.
Yeah. I think that's a great spot to end this.
I agree.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. I hope you were able to walk away with the point that we just made. that, hopefully you came to that same conclusion or a similar conclusion. Or, if we're totally fucking off, let us know. Let us know because, we listen. Exactly. Clearly.
And if you've been abducted by aliens, please comment.
Oh my God, I would love to.
Please. We will have you on the show. We will absolutely have you on the show, and we will hear you out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Garble Podcast. You can listen to us. Hey, one of the new stations that you can listen to us is you can listen to us on Amazon Music. Woo! Because we're now available on Amazon Music. So you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, iTunes, all those places that you find your podcast.
Awesome.
Or your music.
And YouTube. Don't forget YouTube.
And yes, YouTube. YouTube is another one. Check out our social media on Instagram, on Twitter, because those are the ones that we subscribe to.
And garblepodcast.com for all of your needs, especially when we start actually going out into the world again and doing things live. That'll be a good place to check out where we're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. Later.
Late.